Welcome to the Crunch Time YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be doing my third mock draft of the 2021 NFL draft season. And now that all the picks are official, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have won the Super Bowl. Now it's really draft season as there are no games left until next NFL season. And this is probably the most entertaining part of the offseason in my opinion. Free agency is great, but the draft is really where you add the most talent. And this is an important part for every team, adding a lot of youth, and this can really decide which teams are going to be contending next year. So, the first pick, let's not waste too much time. The Jags take Trevor Lawrence. Don't see any way around this pick unless they trade it for Deshaun Watson, which in itself is very unlikely. Lawrence is the best QB prospect probably since Andrew Luck, maybe even Peyton Manning. So, let's move on to the Jets, where I've been taking Zach Wilson out of BYU. And I think Zach Wilson is clearly the better prospect between him and Justin Fields. The more and more I watch, the more I see that his decision-making and processor is much more ahead of Justin Fields. And they are pretty similar everywhere else. If you look at it, athleticism is pretty similar, which is really underrated trait of Zach Wilson. Many think Justin Fields is a much better athlete, which isn't that true. Both have pretty great arms, really good accuracy, but it's just the processor of Wilson, which really puts him over the edge compared to a Justin Fields, and that's what makes Fields a much more risky prospect, considering he can be a one-read quarterback. I have the Miami Dolphins taking Jamar Chase, wide receiver out of LSU. We all know he opted out this season, but we all saw what he did with Joe Burrow last year, and I think that would really help Tua and this offense. Now, we know Sewell is the best prospect in this draft, in my opinion at least. Top 3 for most people. But I believe they need to add a superstar wide receiving talent. They can't go wrong with Penei or Jamar Chase. But giving Tua another weapon to throw to really was a big issue for him. He had a ton of talent at Alabama, most talented school there is in football. And then he went to Miami, and they don't have bad weapons, but it's not great. It's not top 20, top 22, 23. So adding Jamar Chase boosts this wide receiving core a lot. And now we move on to the fourth pick, where I have the Atlanta Falcons taking Justin Fields. Now, Fields to the Falcons is probably one of my favorite picks of the draft. And if this actually happens, I really think this would help Fields a lot. Him going into Arthur Smith's system would really help him develop into the best quarterback he can be. Arthur Smith did wonders with Ryan Tannehill. Also, not being coached by Adam Gase anymore also helped Ryan Tannehill. But if Fields can go in a system where Arthur Smith, really QB-friendly, have Julio, have Calvin Ridley, a lot of weapons there, Hayden Hurst, maybe they draft a running back, that would really put Justin Fields in a situation to succeed in maybe 2 to 3 years. And with Fields on a rookie deal, if they go all out, this could be a Super Bowl team in maybe 3 years or so, with the Saints and Buccaneers in aging situations. So, with the fifth pick, I have the Cincinnati Bengals taking Penei Sewell. And if Sewell is on the board at pick 5, I don't know why the Bengals would not take Sewell. He is, as I've already said before, the best prospect in this draft. And you have to protect Joe Burrow. There is no way around it. You can take a wide receiver later in the draft. This is a very stacked wide receiver class, like last year, and you can take a second-round wide receiver, first round, especially top 5 offensive linemen, a lot better for your team than if you take like Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase, and then maybe a second-round offensive lineman. Burrow can work a lot more with worse wide receivers than he can with no offensive line. Now, I have the Philadelphia Eagles taking Devonta Smith, wide receiver out of Alabama. He won the Heisman, but his biggest knock is his size, and that's a big reason to have Jamar Chase going above him. Smith is good at almost everything he does, route running, speed. There's nothing against him skill set-wise. His NFL size is a bit of a concern, but I don't see the Eagles not taking him due to those reasons, as they need a wide receiver. They probably have a bottom 5 receiving core in the NFL, and pairing him next to like a Jalen Reagor would really help both of them, as Reagor would be like your Jalen Waddle in some ways, just a lot less talented than him. And that would really help Reagor, his pick in a way. It wouldn't look as bad considering Justin Jefferson went after him. So this is the biggest surprise of this mock draft. We have Trey Lance getting selected by the Minnesota Vikings as they move up 7 spots, giving up next year's 2nd-round pick and this year's 5th-round pick. Now, this depends a lot on Minnesota's evaluation of Trey Lance, as many just think he's similar to a Mac Jones with more physical traits. You can argue that, but I really think he is his own little tier, I guess, in a sort of way. He's not as good as like a Wilson and a Fields, but I definitely think he has more upside than a Mac Jones. Now, I don't know how much the Vikings really think they can compete. Personally, I don't think they can compete with Kirk Cousins as QB. His defense isn't in a great spot, have a ton of offensive weapons, and that wouldn't be a bad spot for Trey Lance to develop in. The Lions acquire more assets with Dan Campbell and this new era in a sort of way. And that would really help them get more assets. Maybe they don't have to take as much of a risk here as at pick 14. Now at pick 8, I have the Carolina Panthers taking Kyle Pitts, tight end. And he is probably one of the most talented tight ends coming out, maybe since O.J. Howard. O.J. Howard didn't turn out, but Pitts is almost like a wide receiver in a way. Really fast for a tight end, can get jump balls. If this Carolina Panthers offense added a Kyle Pitts, it would be super explosive. And if they could maybe trade for a 2nd-round pick, it's a high second. It's pick 40 in the draft. They trade back for like a Sam Darnold. I have the Jets taking Zach Wilson. They can get rid of him. They got a high second. That's a win-win for both teams. Give Darnold a stacked group of weapons. CMC, Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, Kyle Pitts here. Curtis Samuel, he might end up leaving. Probably will, because you don't want to pay 3 wide receivers. But that would be a lot for Sam Darnold to work with, and that could probably rejuvenate his career. So at pick 9, I have the Denver Broncos picking Patrick Surtain. And I really think Surtain is the clear number 1 corner in this draft. I still think Caleb Farley is a really good prospect, probably top 10. But Surtain just has a lot more experience at the position, really a lot better technique. He can also run more of that man coverage that Rick Fangio likes to run. So that'd be really good for Denver. Not really much to say here. I feel like if the 4 quarterbacks are out, then there's not much Denver can do other than to take Farley or Surtain. Now, I have the New England Patriots trading up with the Dallas Cowboys. They give up next year's 3rd and this year's 4th to move up 5 spots and take wide receiver Jalen Waddle. Now, this will be really interesting to see New England, of all teams, trade up for a wide receiver. But looking at the board, there wasn't much for Dallas to do. Maybe they could have taken Slater or Darisaw, but I just didn't like the fits for their team. They are in a win-now mode, and I don't think taking a developmental tackle, as they wouldn't start. They have La'el Collins and Tyron Smith. Those are 2 tackles who can easily start day 1 for you, but Dallas is in a good situation there, so I have them trading back, and they collect a lot more draft capital, and they've been a pretty good drafting team. Hopefully Dak Prescott recovers fully, and they're able to make a run this year with whoever they pick at 15. I have the New York Giants taking edge rusher Joseph Acai, and this might be the boldest pick of the entire draft, as not many think Acai is the best edge rusher in this draft, and I personally don't think he's the best. I do have him at number 2 behind Gregory Rousseau, but I just like his fit with the Giants better. I feel like Rousseau is a lot more raw, and that's not really what I believe the Giants may be looking for. Acai, just really liked him coming out of Texas. a lot of power, a lot of speed, and he's a very versatile player. He can play around the defense. He doesn't just have to be an edge rusher. That probably is where you should play him. Now, at number 12, I have the San Francisco 49ers taking Christian Darrisaw. Now, people will say, take Caleb Farley, but I don't think that Trent Williams will stay with them. Very expensive, and they still have a lot of people they're going to have to end up paying soon. If they keep Trent Williams, they 100% should take Caleb Farley right here, but I predict that he's going to end up leaving San Francisco, and that leaves a hole at tackle where you can take Christian Darrisaw. I believe this is the second straight draft to have them taking a tackle, but just a really big need for them if Trent Williams ends up leaving. Now, Rashawn Slater to the Chargers at 13 would be a really great pick for them. They need to protect Justin Herbert as well, just like the Bengals with Mahomes, not with Mahomes, with Joe Burrow. Obviously not as bad as Cincinnati, but adding Rashawn Slater would add a ton of talent, youth, potential to this line, and it would be the first piece that would really start solidifying this group. Now, at pick 14, I have a Detroit Lions taking Micah Parsons. Now, he is a bit more of a risky player. He has some off-the-field issues, which I'm not going to get into in this video. But if the Lions can help him become the superstar player that he has the potential to become, before his off-the-field situation, he was probably a top 10 prospect. I saw him going at 8 to Carolina, 7 to Detroit, and a lot of mocks. He has fallen a little due to those reasons, but if Detroit can get him at 14, that'd be a really good pick for them. First pick in the Dan Campbell regime, and maybe they can get some offense later in the draft, as you do want to get Jared Goff some help. Now, the Dallas Cowboys, this works out perfectly for them. If they can trade back to 15 and get a third-round pick, a fourth-round pick, and Caleb Farley, I'm pretty sure Jerry Jones would be delighted. This team desperately needs secondary help, and Caleb Farley is probably the best player to help them after Surtain, of course, but he's already gone. So, they take Farley here. He's their guy. And now we move on to pick 16, which is the Arizona Cardinals taking J.C. Horn. Now, I don't think he's the clear third best corner option in this draft, but there are a lot of rumors that the Cardinals are going to move on from Patrick Mahomes, or both sides are parting ways. However it's worded, Patrick Peterson is likely not going to be an Arizona Cardinal next season, and they need to fill that hole at cornerback. So taking J.C. Horn would really help them there. And now I have the Las Vegas Raiders taking edge rusher Gregory Rousseau. And the Raiders just need talent on defense. It's as simple as that. Now, I don't have Kwity Paye going. I'm not really too high on him specifically. Now, people have been pretty low on Rousseau, as he went from being top 5 in a lot of mocks. Now he's going around 20 range. But I feel like him going to Las Vegas is a pretty good landing spot for him at 17. A lot of potential. He has what you want in an edge rusher, at least the physical traits. He can develop a lot having John Gruden. Hopefully that could help him. And this would help Raiders get some of that identity back on defense. Now, having Miami Dolphins taking tackle Samuel Cosmi, and he is my third or fourth tackle. Not sure between him and Slater yet fully. Slater is likely free just due to his positional. He can play a lot more positions than Cosmi can. Cosmi is just a tackle. But Dolphins, they don't take Sewell at 3. So they get Samuel Cosmi, who I'm pretty high on as well. I think he's probably around a top 15 prospect. Really would be good for Dolphins to protect Tua and get him some help. Now, the Washington football team has Mac Jones fall into their lap. If they can get Mac Jones, I'm pretty sure they would feel that they've won this draft. Now, I don't think Mac Jones is ever going to be a top 10 QB, but he can be a 15 to 20 range, which is really what this Washington football team needs. Now, we're going to move on to the Bears. I have them taking Elijah Vera Tucker. He also has a lot of flexibility, just like Rashawn Slater. Now, I don't think he's going to be playing tackle in the NFL. I think he projects better as a guard, but he can play whatever the Bears need him to in Chicago, as they just need help on this offensive line. Now, I have a Colts taking wide receiver Terrence Marshall. They do need to get a quarterback, but you can't take anyone here with Max Jones. He's off the board. And Kyle Trask is not a round 1, round 2, and probably not a round 3 prospect. Terrence Marshall, really good wide receiver out of LSU. I think he would be really good for the Colts to get, as they have Michael Pittman, they have T.Y. Hilton, but they could use a few other pieces. Now, Kwity Paye, I have him going to the Titans here at pick 22, and I could see him falling out of the first round, as edge is really weak in this year's class. But I feel like the Titans, they're willing to take a risk on him. They took Jeffrey Simmons a few years ago. He was definitely a much different prospect than Kwity Paye. His situation was he got hurt, but he was probably a top 5 prospect, top 10 at least, before the injury. Kwity Paye is a lot more risky, as his film is alright. It depends on just your individual thoughts on him, as you can see a lot of positive and negative. Now, I have the New York Jets taking Jalen Mayfield, tackle. And if you're getting Zach Wilson, then let's protect him. Let's give him a wide receiver, an offensive lineman, have them giving him an O-lineman here. And I don't think Zach Wilson would complain about getting some help. Now, have the Pittsburgh Steelers taking Najee Harris, and this is one of the only teams I'd be really happy with taking a running back if I'm a fan. I don't think ETN or Najee Harris are players you should be taking in the first round unless you have a really good team like Pittsburgh who desperately needs a running back. Now, we move on to the 25th pick, where I have the Green Bay Packers trading a 4 spot, giving up a 4th and a next year 5th for Kadarius Toney. Now, I do not care how nice Equanimeous St. Brown, how Alan Lazard, their stats look, they are not good receivers. Give Aaron Rodgers some help other than Devontae Adams. Let's give him Kadarius Toney. Give him some talent, some youth at this wide receiver position, not day 3 players. Give Aaron Rodgers players to work with. We see what Aaron Rodgers has done with good players, and you were 1 game away, you can argue 4th down away from making the Super Bowl. And I believe Kadarius Toney would help the Packers make the Super Bowl. Now, have the Cleveland Browns taking inside defensive lineman Christian Barmore out of Alabama. Now, they really just need a defensive line, and this team is looking pretty good. Another wide receiver would also be good if they move on from Odell Beckham. Now, near the end of the draft, your last 5 or so picks, have the Ravens taking Rashad Bateman. Just give Lamar some players to throw to other than like Mark Andrews. Now, the Saints take Asante Samuel Jr. here, and this is who I was referring to when I said J.C. Horn isn't just my true number 3 corner. I also had him tied with Asante Samuel Jr. I believe the Saints do need another cornerback in there. The Saints are a very difficult team to mock right now, just because their team will probably look a lot different by the time the draft rolls around in late April. Now, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. They trade back. I have them taking Travis Etienne. Now, they do have James Robinson, but I have them taking the value here, having 2 really good running backs on cheap deals. This might not be the best value here. You are taking another running back with James Robinson, but Robinson did have a few injury concerns, and I don't think you want to be giving him the ball as much as they had to last year. Have the Buffalo Bills taking Azeez Ojulari, and this team needs edge help. Now, I didn't have Ojulari as like a very highly graded prospect, but he still was the 4th best edge in my opinion in this class, and we saw how the Chiefs pretty much looked like a lot different team against Buffalo than Tampa Bay, and that's because Buffalo's defense couldn't bring pressure to Patrick Mahomes. Now, have the Kansas City Chiefs taking guard Wyatt Davis. It could have been Creed Humphrey here. They just need offensive line help. We saw it happen in the Super Bowl. I'm not going to overreact and say this is like the worst offensive line in the league or something. They were missing like 4 of their preseason starters, if you include the guard who opted out to serve. But moving on from that, we have the Philadelphia Eagles trading up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And they move up 6 spots and give up 4th round pick this year, 4th round pick next year. Wasn't really anyone who I really was high on for Tampa Bay. That last thing they need is another linebacker. And they gain a little bit more draft capital, get a little more value. And they'd be picking high in the 2nd round, and the Eagles get help they desperately need in the linebacking room. So, thanks for watching. Comment below your thoughts on this mock and who you disagree with, agree with, your favorite pick, least favorite pick. So, thanks for watching, and have a great day.